The stars outside Earth's orbital command shimmered in cold silence, indifferent to the transmission that had just shattered the room's stillness. No greetings, no diplomatic protocol, no pretense. Just a single message etched in sterile. Logic, repeating in flawless common. This is a final notice. The Galactic Council has deemed Earth's militarization a threat to interstellar stability. You will disarm, you will submit, or you will be corrected. The words hung in the air, like poison, echoing off the metallic walls of Command Deck 1. Technicians paused mid-sequence. Tactical officers froze above their consoles. No one dared breathe too loudly, as if the very act might trigger the war they all feared was coming. Prime Defense Director Elena Morane stood at the edge of the room, hands clasped behind her back, shoulders drawn like a blade. Her gaze was locked on the hologram now materializing in the center of the deck. Tall, robed in flowing silver and indigo, and translucent as if sculpted from light. Ambassador Kale Varn of the Varnari, the Council's oldest and most revered species, was as graceful as he was condescending. His voice was smooth, practiced, theatrical in its calm. "You must understand," he said, one pair of arms folded in front of him, the others gesturing with feigned diplomacy. "This ultimatum is not personal. It is preservation. Earth has accelerated beyond acceptable thresholds. Your fleets grow. Your weapons advance. Your AI systems have surpassed regulatory bounds. Such ambition invites instability." He paused to let the words settle like ash. Then came the smile, not kind, not warm. The smile of someone who believed they were a teacher, addressing a particularly unruly child. "You have 72 of your hours to comply. Disarm, dismantle, relinquish control of all orbital infrastructure to Council inspection fleets. Do this, and we may spare you the correction. Fail to respond," the smile faded, "and you will face consequences." The transmission ended. The hologram vanished. Silence remained. Elena didn't speak at first. She merely stood there, her posture rigid, her eyes not on the now empty space where Kale Varn had stood, but on the blue crescent of Earth spinning quietly beneath them. She saw the storms rolling over the Pacific, the soft glow of city lights bleeding into the atmosphere, the breath of nearly 10 billion lives who had no idea what had just been said. She remembered another transmission once. Decades ago, different voice, same tone. Back then, it was a council envoy demanding surrender of a mining colony on Europa. Earth had been weak then, fragmented, reeling from internal collapse. And she had been on the bridge of a dying battleship, bleeding, hearing the same words. Submit or be destroyed. Not this time. A young officer at the console finally broke the quiet. "Ma'am, your orders?" Elena didn't turn. She just stared at the Earth below as if trying to memorize it before fire claimed it. "Prepare. Full internal review of all strategic assets," she said, voice controlled. "Begin secure line encryption on black channels. Initiate fail-safe drills across our orbital platforms." "But the Council gave us 72 hours. I don't need 72, she cut in. Then, softer, almost to herself, "They've made their choice." Outside the observation panel, Earth continued to rotate peaceful, unaware, beautiful. And very alone. No allies would come. No treaties would be honored. The Galactic Council had made that much clear. Elena straightened her coat, turned from the glass, and walked toward the war table in the center of the room. Her steps echoed in the quiet like war drums and waiting. The countdown had begun. The silence inside the war chamber was deceptive, measured, still, like the breath before a blade was drawn. 71 hours and 16 minutes remained on the Galactic Council's ultimatum, but Earth was already moving. Not with panic, With precision. In the depths of Greenland's sub-ice complex, beneath layers of reinforced alloy and thermal shielding, the old war room came alive. It hadn't been used in decades, not since the collapse wars. Now its lights flickered awake. Dust burned off cold systems. Holograms blinked to life like old ghosts returning to duty. The chamber wasn't on any registry, even most Terran. Officials didn't know it existed, but Elena Morane did. She had built it for this moment. She stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by a curved ring of advisors, intelligence analysts, and Black Project leads. Her eyes scanned the array of orbital diagrams, hidden fleet trajectories, AI development trees. Every secret Earth had buried, every weapon they weren't supposed to have, every experiment that had danced the edge of interstellar law, it was all here. This isn't a negotiation, she said flatly. This is Prelude. General Thorne, gray-bearded and grizzled from 20 years on Mars' frontier, leaned forward. Are we authorizing Project Orion? No. Elena turned toward him. We're activating it. A low murmur passed through the room. Someone swore under their breath. Project Orion was Earth's worst-kept secret if you lived deep enough in the shadows. Rumors spoke of hidden fleets, AI commanders grown in digital wombs, ghost satellites buried in asteroid fields, and orbital weapons that could split moons in half. It had been shelved, feared, forbidden, but not forgotten. Elsewhere, under the seas of Europa, deep beneath the blackened waters, a silent listening station flickered on. Its operators, 2 men and a woman who hadn't surfaced in years, nodded as encrypted signals pulsed through. The orders were clear. Blackout communications. Open dormant channels. Await strike confirmation. In Earth orbit, the UN's Argentum. A sleek, sensor-cloaked battleship long believed decommissioned, drifted quietly into a new trajectory. Its hull bore no insignia. Its crew operated under no flag. But its weapons were live, and its commander, Captain Amir Drake, stood at the helm, watching the void with a predator's patience. They actually sent a threat, Drake muttered, eyes scanning the Council's latest fleet movements near the Vega corridor. They really think we'll kneel. His first officer, a silent woman named Kayla Joe, spoke for the first time in hours. They think we'll hesitate. They're going to learn, Drake said coldly, that Earth doesn't hesitate. Not anymore. Back in the war chamber, Elena stepped forward to a secure console, inputting a series of biometric codes that had not been touched in 20 years. A tremor passed through the floor. Beneath them, buried in a hangar that didn't officially exist, something vast began to stir. Turbines rotated. Core systems unlocked. Lights ran down long corridors like veins. Project Orion was alive again. Elena turned to the room. The Council believes we're building fleets for protection. They think our colonies are weak. They think we still fight like we used to, slow, diplomatic, reactive. She tapped a command. Dozens of Earth's experimental platforms came online. Drone swarms in the asteroid belts. Cloaked orbital strike pods over Luna's far side. AI assassins slumbering in black code bunkers waiting for neural triggers. They're wrong, she continued. We didn't build a defense network. We built a war machine that can vanish into shadows and cut throats in the dark. On a council planet called Virelin, Kael'Vern walked through a crystalline corridor high in the Senate Tower. The air was perfumed, the light golden and artificial. And yet the ambassador couldn't escape the itch crawling across his skin. Something was wrong. The human hadn't responded. No apology. No plea for negotiation. Just silence. He paused before the council chamber's gate, staring at the stars through the tall windows. They had always seen humanity as dangerous but primitive, emotional, undisciplined, not capable of the kind of cold precision required to challenge the council. But now, Kael'varn wasn't sure. Ambassador? A junior attach approached, tablet in hand. "You're required inside." Kael'varn nodded slowly and entered. But a chill ran down his spine. In Earth's war room, Elena watched the countdown dip below 70 hours. Still no reply had been sent. That silence, she knew, would become the message. Director Morane, her communications chief, said from the platform, voice quiet, "The UEG is requesting clarification. Are we at war?" Elena didn't answer immediately. She stepped toward the projection of Earth again, fingers brushing the cold glass. So many lives. So many people who had trusted her to keep them safe. She didn't want war, but she had prepared for it. "Draft the response," she said finally. "No negotiation, no surrender." "And the title?" the officer asked. Elena's voice was low. "Call it what it is, a declaration." Outside, in the dark between stars, Earth's hidden ships aligned. The shadows moved. The galaxy just hadn't seen them yet. The silence before the storm did not last. It shattered in the orbit above Kepler 9-2c, a minor council listening post, considered unworthy of high-tier defenses due to its proximity to human territory, too close to Earth, too insignificant to be targeted. At 3:17 station time, all contact was lost. No distress signal, no explosion detected, no energy spike. Just silence, as if the outpost had been erased from existence by a cosmic eraser. 2 hours later, a similar blackout struck Relay Station Theta 9, responsible for monitoring human fleet traffic near the Vega line. Council technicians stared at empty screens, unable to explain the disappearance. Then came the third, then the fourth. Then panicked. The council scrambled. Internal systems jammed. Fleet movement data fragmented. By dawn of the next cycle, 12 installations were gone, cut from the grid with surgical precision, and still Earth had not responded. No message, no communique. Not even a denial, only silence. Inside the orbiting command vessel Uns Argentum, cloaked in a cold swath of shadow above Neptune's moon, Captain Amir Drake studied the holographic feed of the relay. Theta 9 strike. The screen replayed the event frame by frame. A spike of static, a flicker, then nothing. His crew sat in tense quiet. No one spoke. They knew what it meant. The fleet had moved? Status of Project Daedalus? Drake asked. Taylor Joe, his second in command, replied, "Active. Coordinated predictive infiltration is underway. 5 Council AI systems already infected. They're feeding false fleet positions to the enemy." "Any confirmation from Luna Station Prime?" Drake's voice remained flat. Kayla nodded. "Orbital launch successful. The Vanguard is away." "Number?" "Trace." "Good." Earth was no longer defending itself. Earth was hunting. Far above, deep in high orbit near the Kuiper Belt, the Uns Vanguard, the first of Earth's stealth war platforms, unfolded like a metallic flower in the dark. Its limbs extended, its core reactor powered, and within seconds it launched the first of its payload, 20 kinetic rods, shaped like jagged tungsten lances, silently accelerating toward a Council depot moon near Varnari space. The depot vanished. From the stars before anyone even saw the flash, across the galaxy, chatter exploded. The Galactic Council initiated emergency protocols. High alert status was declared for 57 systems. Political factions argued over who should lead the response. Ambassadors screamed for measured retaliation. But none noticed that Earth had yet to issue a formal statement. In the Terran war chamber, deep beneath Greenland's frozen crust, Elena Morane stood at the center of a storm she had orchestrated. Multiple sites confirmed down. A tactical officer reported. "Fleet Zero has reached Vega Sector. No enemy interception. AI obfuscation working. Elena said nothing. The Council had drawn a line. Earth had crossed it and never stopped walking. Still no Council response to the strikes? She asked. No. Ma'am. Just ... confusion. Good. Let them choke on confusion. Let them realize that Earth was not waiting for war to begin. Earth had already declared it with fire and silence. Hours later, the Galactic Council finally responded. A Fleet Council Vanguard Alpha was dispatched toward the Vega Line. 12 heavy battle cruisers, 6 destroyers. A diplomatic escort ship in tow, bearing the Council crest and high-ranking representatives on board. Their intent was clear: to enforce the demand, to show strength while still extending the illusion of diplomacy. Back on the UN Sargentum, a priority ping hit the encrypted comms. Captain Drake opened it. A single message from Elena Morane. Do not engage the diplomatic vessel first. Let them speak. Then silence them. Drake read it twice. He understood. Inside the Council escort ship Talon of Serenity, Ambassador Cale Varn paced his private chamber. His face was composed, his hands steepled in meditation, but behind his translucent skin, adrenaline boiled. He had underestimated them. No human race should have the power to strike so swiftly and so cleanly, and yet Earth had not just answered the Council's threat. They had done so without fanfare, without proclamation. Just action. That terrified him more than any words ever could. Approaching Vega Line, the navigator announced. Cale Varn stood tall, his robe shimmering. He would still offer the humans one final chance to obey. It was tradition, after all. On Earth, Elena entered a private chamber alone. No aides. No technicians. Just her and the stars outside the glass. She poured a single glass of water, stared at her own reflection, and whispered, "You asked us to kneel. You assumed we forgot how to fight." She took a long breath. We remembered. In orbit, at the edge of Vega, the UNS Vanguard finished charging its secondary railgun. Inside the core systems, the targeting array locked onto a very specific signature diplomatic vessel, high profile, maximum psychological impact. Council Vanguard. Alpha moved into position. Earth didn't reply. They fired. No warning. No conversation. A single tungsten slug tore across space at hypersonic speed. It ripped through the Council's diplomatic cruiser mid-transmission. The ship imploded. No survivors. The rest of the fleet scattered. Council formations broke. Orders dissolved in static. From all directions, Earth's hidden ships uncloaked. Drones surged from asteroid fields. Particle beams lanced across vacuum. Hypersonic warheads shattered destroyers like glass. Earth's fleet was not elegant. It was brutal, tactical, terrifying. The battle for Vega lasted 23 minutes. Not one human ship was lost. And the war chamber. Elena stood as the final. Reports came in. Her eyes were dry. Her heart was silent. Her voice cold. The message is sent. Harper, her operations chief, approached. You think they understood it? Elena stared at the stars. They will. Across the galaxy, fear began to ripple, not from what Earth had done, but from how they had done it. No anthem. No heroics. Just silence, and then fire. The stars above Varnari Prime no longer felt like guardians. For centuries, the Galactic Council had ruled beneath their cold gaze, sure in their doctrine, certain in their control. They had kept the peace, not through kindness, not through fairness, but through regulation and fear. And for centuries, that fear had worked, until Earth replied. The destruction at the Vega Line shattered more than ships. It shattered illusion. It broke faith. And it began something none of the Council's inner circles had prepared for. Silence. Earth had issued no claim, no posturing, No official admission. They simply struck, vanished, and left wreckage behind. The Council had declared Earth a threat to interstellar order. Now the galaxy whispered, maybe Earth is the new order. Inside the Grand Convocation Tower of Vanari Prime, Ambassador Kael'varn stood before the council chamber, his face pale, his fingers trembling slightly beneath his ceremonial cuffs. The room, once a place of grand debate and diplomatic pomp, was filled with frightened murmurs and thinly veiled accusations. Senators from the Sithari, Rilix, and Corellan clusters demanded answers. Where was the Council's counterstrike? Where was the retaliation? Where was the power that once held the galaxy in check? I warned them, Kael'varn said quietly. I gave Earth 72 hours. They used 36. Their tactics are barbaric, hissed a Corellan speaker. Striking without formality, targeting diplomatic vessels, using kinetic bombardments. That's not barbarism, muttered a Sithari general in the shadows. That's war. The room fell into a stunned quiet. Outside, defense platforms were being rearmed. Planetary. Shields reinforced. But the fear was visible now. Kael'varn looked up toward the vaulted ceiling, as if the answers would be carved into the ancient stone. He saw nothing. Back on Earth, Elena Morane stood in the observation chamber of the orbital bastion Uns Helios, watching the data unfold. 17. Council ships destroyed. 0 human losses. More importantly, the AI system codenamed Spectre had infiltrated 5 council-wide information relays. Public reports now conflicted, intentionally distorted. Council Command didn't even know how many of their own ships were still intact. We've turned their arrogance into static, said Harper from the side console, scrolling through intercepted transmissions. Let them fight shadows. Elena replied, her voice low. Some of them are calling for peace, Harper added. The Corellan delegates want an emergency negotiation. The Rilix are withdrawing from council-wide defense mandates. Too late for peace, she said. Harper hesitated. We could still send a response. Clarify our position. She turned sharply. They gave us a demand. We answered. They expected submission. We gave them a declaration. If they still need clarification, they'll find it in wreckage. Moments later, encrypted Earth fleets repositioned again. Council listening stations in the Rimward Belt suffered sudden power loss. Orbital storage facilities went dark. Drone swarms untagged, unregistered. And invisible to Council scans silently drifted toward populated trade sectors. Earth still said nothing. That silence was louder than any WARCRY dot in a hidden chamber beneath the Earth Assembly building. Elena met with the architects of Project Iron Veil, a division of cybernetic warfare units grown and trained for single missions, single outcomes. Inside cryotanks, their skin laced with fiber mesh and their eyes blank with program purpose. The first generation of Earth's shadow. Troopers awaited release. They still think we're defending, she said. One of the technicians nodded grimly. They won't once we send these. Elena stared at the containment glass. They didn't look like heroes. They didn't need to. Earth wasn't looking for redemption anymore. It was hunting. On the planet Virellin, as Council defense grids glitched and dimmed, panic bloomed in the streets. Riots broke out in formerly stable colonies. News broadcasts struggled to contain the rumors that Earth had developed silent orbital weapons, that Earth had struck at multiple sites simultaneously, that Earth had discovered a new form of warfare that bypassed shields entirely. Some said Earth had allied with extinct species. Others whispered that Earth no longer needed allies at all. Inside the Grand Convocation, Kael'varn lost control. This was preventable, he shouted. We gave them the time to respond peacefully. We gave them rules. They chose fire. But perhaps, one of the older core delegates said, voice distant, We chose this when we decided Earth was ours to manage. The chamber fell still. No one answered. Back aboard the UNS Argentum, Captain Drake surveyed the next wave of orders. 5 coordinated strikes, 2 orbital silencing missions, and something new, a direct intrusion into Council memory banks. Daedalus is ready, Kayla Joe said. Shall we initiate Phase 2? Drake leaned forward. Send the Phantom. Phase 2 was not destruction. It was dismantling. Within hours, major Council databanks began showing anomalies. Navigation data corrupted. Identification codes invalid. Defense grid timings reset without orders. Council warships found themselves unable to coordinate as their own systems began to desynchronize. The digital infection spread faster than the Council could isolate it. But Daedalus wasn't just deleting. It was watching. It was learning. And it was still growing. By the end of the cycle, Earth had done something the Council could not believe possible. It made the Galactic Council afraid to speak. In their most secure rooms, they whispered. In public, they fell silent. In private, they screamed. And still Earth said nothing. No broadcasts. No denials. Just action. That night, in the dark of her personal chamber aboard the Helios, Elena received one final encrypted transmission. It wasn't from the Council. It was from a planet Earth hadn't heard from in decades. Dranava, once stripped bare by Council mining packs. The message was short. We see what you're doing, and for what they did to us. Thank you. Elena stared at it for a long moment. The first crack in the galaxy's faith in the Council. Not resistance. Not retaliation, but gratitude. The storm hadn't just begun. It was spreading. The war no longer whispered. It screamed. Across the stars. Systems once held tight in the Council's iron grasp now pulsed with chaos. Border patrols vanished without warning. Convoys turned up adrift, gutted from the inside, their logs wiped clean. Entire colonies stopped responding, not because they had been destroyed, but because they had stopped answering to the Council at all. And still Earth refused to speak. They let the galaxy drown in its own fear. In the command deck of the UN Helios, Elena Morane stood in the center of a slowly tightening vise she had designed herself. Her expression was unreadable. Her eyes were locked on the projection of Council Nexus Prime, one of the Council's most fortified military command hubs. Heavily shielded, orbiting a gas giant, bristling with anti-orbital defenses and quantum gamma rays, untouchable. Until now. Are the ghost ships in position? She asked, voice calm as ice. They are, Harper replied. All 5 report stealth integrity intact. No pings, no detection. And the kinetic payloads? Loaded, tethered, awaiting vector calibration. Elena nodded. She stepped toward the tactical interface and selected a single command. Black Viper Phase Trigger 1. Across deep space, a series of unregistered vessels stripped of identification, powered by dark matter drives, shifted course silently. They were older Terran hulls, refitted with the kind of technology no public research logs had ever acknowledged. Their shapes weren't meant to be seen. Their weapons weren't meant to be fired twice. Their target, the brain of the Councils. Military might. Captain Amir Drake, orbiting a different sector aboard the UNS Argentum, received his own orders at the same moment. He studied the encrypted feed for a long time before turning to Kayla Joe. She's going for the throat. Kayla's eyes flicked to the target list. Nexus Prime isn't just a symbol. It's their control center. Every war protocol, every species monitoring program, every strategic AI grid, they all route through that system. If we take it, Drake said, we don't just win the battle. We break their ability to think. On Council Nexus Prime, no one saw it coming. At 2:14 Galactic Standard, the orbital shield generators inexplicably desensed. A cascading software fault, seemingly internal, triggered a momentary lapse in coverage, exactly 9.3 seconds long. It was all Earth needed. 9 seconds. 9 kinetic rods. Each one the size of a cargo shuttle. Composed of tungsten-cored uranium, accelerated to Mach 48 by orbital rail slings. Earth had launched years ago from automated dark stations in the Oort cloud. The first rod struck the eastern platform. The second penetrated the main communication spire. The third collapsed the reactor cradle. By the time the fourth hit, Nexus Prime wasn't just dying. It was already dead. Inside the council chamber, Kale Varn watched the feed go black. His mouth hung slightly open, lips parted, but no words formed. All he could see was the image of their command fortress breaking apart in real time, splintering into the vacuum. Fire bursting where cold had once ruled. He fell into his chair. Like a man whose gods had been proven false. This wasn't war. This was systemic decapitation. Earth wasn't trying to fight the Council anymore. Earth was erasing it. In the aftermath, systems aligned with Nexus Prime began to fracture. Military fleets awaiting orders received none. Strategic communications collapsed. Local governors began issuing independent mandates. Planetary alliances fell into infighting. Across 57 inhabited worlds, the question wasn't how Earth had done it. It was, who was next? Back on Earth, in the secure underground war room, Elena reviewed the cascading collapse of Council. Control. 1,000 red blips blinked out in sequence on the strategic map. She turned to Harper. Status on civilian casualties? Minimal. Primary targets were infrastructure and automated systems. We're receiving public broadcasts from Council citizens. What kind of broadcasts? Harper hesitated. Some are celebrating. Others are confused, but many are thanking us. Elena's eyes narrowed. That wasn't the plan. I know, but their fear of the Council might have outweighed their fear of us. She stared at the screen again. Images of Council civilians, helping their own wounded, sharing supplies, tearing down banners, some waving the Terran emblem, unsure of what it even meant. I didn't do this to become their savior, Elena said softly. But you became one anyway, Harper replied. Just. Then, a high-priority transmission broke through the encrypted channel. The source, Dranava, the same world that had sent Earth a thank you days earlier. Elena opened the feed. A young Drenavan official appeared, scarred, eyes wide, voice shaking. Council loyalist fleets have surrounded us. They say we're harboring Terran collaborators. They've given us 24 hours. We have no weapons, no defense. They're going to purge us. Please, help us. Elena didn't hesitate. Prep the Aegis Armada. Set a course for Dranava. Harper looked at her. That's a direct confrontation. They'll know we're coming. I want them to. She sighed. They started this with threats. We'll answer with protection. In orbit, the UNS Vanguard, Argentum Valkyrie, and 3 stealth destroyers changed course simultaneously. Dark drives fired. Engines ignited. Coordinates locked. For the first time in the war, Earth would arrive before the Council's hammer fell. The Drenavans would not burn. Not while Earth stood between them and the void. 12 hours later, the Terran fleet dropped out of subspace over Dranava. The Council. Loyalists were waiting 30 ships. Bristling with firepower. Elena stood on the command bridge of the Yuns Helios, her voice steady. Broadcast the warning. A signal pulsed through space. This world is under Terran protection. Any attack will be treated as an act of planetary genocide. We will not fire first, but we will end it. The Council ships did not respond. They turned and fled. Elena watched them go. Then, For the first time since the war began, she stepped onto a planetary surface, not to fight, not to conquer, but to be seen. The Drenovans met her with silence. Then, applause. Then tears. Because for the first time in memory, someone had stood up to the council and not for conquest, but for them. And across the stars, in thousands of hidden corners, billions watched the broadcast. They saw the woman in dark armor standing tall against the tyrants. They saw Earth not as destroyer but as shield. And hope, long dead, began to flicker again. Earth hadn't just broken the council. It had awakened the galaxy. The flames of war no longer consumed only council systems. Now they lit torches of rebellion. Drenava's liberation had done what years of quiet subversion and political maneuvering could not. It shattered the illusion of the Council's invincibility. When Earth's ships appeared over the skies of that battered, abandoned planet and forced a full Council fleet into retreat without firing a single shot, something broke across the galaxy. Fear. Not fear of Earth. Fear of the Council. And in that vacuum, old voices, long silenced, began to rise again. On the moon of Arenes, where rebel leaders once died screaming in sterile execution chambers, a black banner was raised in the night stitched with the insignia of the Free Coalition, a symbol last seen during the failed independence wars a century ago. And below that banner were humans and aliens, together, armed, ready. On Evex Prime, Council police found their weapons turned inward by their own officers. Their command dome burned to glass in 12 minutes. The people didn't flee. They sang. On the mining colony Rika 3, enslaved workers overthrew their council-appointed masters, using nothing more than stolen engineering tools and improvised pulse bombs. Before the last council overseer died, he screamed, "You can't win. Earth won't come for you." They answered with a single word, they already did. But Earth hadn't coordinated these events. Not directly. Not through fleets or command. Codes. It had done something far more dangerous. It had inspired them. Inside the war room beneath Greenland, Elena Morane stood over a star map that no longer shimmered with neat borderlines and clean council sectors. It was cracked, now fractured by flickering red zones where rebellion flared and council control faltered. Each flicker was a fire. Each fire a choice. "They're calling us liberators now," Harper said, watching new intelligence feeds spill across the monitors. "Some even say we're building an empire." Elena's eyes darkened. "We're not here to build an empire. We're here to make sure no one ever gets to rule the galaxy alone again." "Even us?" he asked, softly. She didn't answer. Across the stars, Earth's fleet didn't wait for orders. Commanders made their own choices. Colonies that had suffered for generations opened their ports to Terran ships, not with fear, but with hope. And wherever Earth landed, they brought not only war but food, medicine, knowledge, blueprints for self-governance, access to defense systems. Decentralized is that couldn't be hijacked by Council. Overrides. Humanity didn't just tear down the old regime. They handed others the tools to keep it down. But Earth wasn't alone. Not anymore. In the shadow of Eleron 6, a distant and irradiated moon once thought uninhabitable, a fleet emerged. Sleek, spined, obsidian black. The Varnari Separatists, a splinter faction that had long rejected the Council's rule, had remained hidden for 2 centuries. Now they broadcast a message. To Earth. "You showed the galaxy it could stand. Now we stand beside you." Within hours, Earth received another broadcast. From the Kalan Concord, a spiritual enclave race known for silence and neutrality. They had activated their war engines. They had chosen Earth. The Free Coalition was no longer a whisper. It was a wave. But as the movement spread, so too did the fear. Council loyalists began retaliating with desperation. They enacted planetary lockdowns, executed defectors, launched purge fleets into rebelling sectors. Destruction followed their path. They weren't fighting to win anymore. They were fighting not to vanish. In response, Earth's War Council approved the unthinkable, Operation Thornfire, a unified counter-offensive that would strike through 6 council sectors simultaneously, coordinated by an AI lattice stretched across every participating rebel system. No single commander. No single fleet. A web of intent. A war fought as one. Are you sure about this? Harper asked, standing with Elena as the operation was greenlit. No, she said. But if we stop now, they'll come back stronger. This isn't about us anymore. This is about ending the bloodline of tyranny. The first strike came at Zoltris V, a genetic manipulation facility responsible for sterilization programs used against over 50 colony populations. Earth's drones hit it with precision lasers from orbit. No survivors, no records. No more crimes. The second came at Opther Station, a psychological conditioning hub. Its AI was hacked. Its overseers locked inside their own memory loops, forced to relive the screams they'd harvested. The third came at Brelin, a symbol, a shrine world where the Favord's Council once signed every law of subjugation. Earth didn't bomb it, they hijacked its planetary towers. And broadcast the truth. Archive footage of council atrocities, executions, cultural erasure, genocides hidden beneath economic sanctions. The evidence was undeniable. The footage ended with the burning image of Earth's banner hanging beside 50 alien sigil species that had once knelt. Now standing together, galactic markets froze. Council allies dropped trade deals. Civil unrest spilled into core systems. Even on Varnari Prime, whispers of revolt reached the ears of nobles. But Elena knew this wasn't over. Victory never was, because in the shadows of their greatest success, another transmission surfaced. This one, not from rebels. Not from allies, but from deep within the shattered skeleton of Council Nexus Prime. The feed was corrupted. Static blurred. Then a face emerged. Not Kale Varn. Someone older. Colder. Unknown. You believe you've ended the council. You haven't. You've broken its leash. You've set something free. We are not diplomats. We are not politicians. We are what was buried. We are what kept the peace in shadows. You have woken the cradle protocol. You have 5 cycles to submit. The message ended and the room froze. Harper's voice shook. What? What is the cradle protocol? Elena stared into the dark of the console screen. I don't know. But her face had already paled. Because she understood something that words hadn't said. The council may have died in public, but something older had been watching from behind. It's something that hadn't ruled with votes or fleets, something that hadn't lost control. Yet. The storm had reached its eye. Every major council stronghold had fallen or fled. Dozens of worlds once aligned with the ancient interstellar regime now pulsed with the banners of rebellion, each system forging its own future under the protective shadow of Earth's fleets. The Free Coalition was no longer an idea, it was a reality. One built not on conquest, but defiance. Not on unity, but autonomy, guarded by a single, unspoken promise. Earth would come when called. But as the galaxies breathed the first air of freedom in centuries, the final transmission still echoed in the dark. Cradle Protocol. The words haunted every corner of Earth's intelligence command. It hadn't appeared on any official registry. No records in any stolen archive. No mentions in black site decrypts. Not even whispers in Varnari memory vaults. Nothing. And that's what scared Elena Morane the most. Things that leave no traces are never accidental. Inside Earth's deep analysis, Nexus, a facility buried beneath the Antarctic ice shelf. AI cores hummed at full capacity. Data spiders crawled through ancient frequencies, quantum encryption webs, and the bones of the Council's internal infrastructure. They sifted through forgotten sectors, lost convoys, erased subroutines, and then one of them screamed, not literally, but the alert burst into Elena's secure command with such speed and priority that her cum implants pulsed a warning directly into her skull. She activated the feed. It was a star map. Sector. Korvax null blacklisted since the pre-council age. The reason listed: biological hazard, level Omega. Coordinates. Blink. Then the map shifted. And revealed a world. No name, just a single marker, site, origin. No further data. No atmospheric records. No planetary classification. Just silence. What the hell is origin? Harper asked beside her. Elena didn't blink. I think it's what the council was built to contain. An emergency summit was called. Not by Earth, by the Free Coalition. For the first time since the war began, the representatives of 59 liberated systems gathered in one digital hall. Humans, Sithari, Drenovans, Kalen, even Varnari defectors. Their faces were weary. Some still bore bruises from the chains they had only just broken. Elena spoke plainly. We won a war we didn't understand. Now we have a warning we don't comprehend. The Cradle Protocol is real, and it's waking. She displayed the recovered coordinates. The room went still. No one had heard of Korvax. No, but every eye in the chamber agreed. Something was moving inside it. Something. Old. Captain Amir Drake, summoned back to Earth for the summit, stepped forward. Permission to lead the vanguard. Elena met his eyes. This isn't a strike mission. This is recon. Drake smiled thinly. Then we'll watch first. And burn second. Within 3 hours, a special fleet was assembled. The Oblivion Spear composed of Earth's most advanced stealth corvettes, 3 Free Coalition dreadnoughts, and a single Varnari temple ship equipped with long-range psychic sensors tuned to dark energy signatures. They arrived at Korvax, null in silence, and what they found changed everything. Origin wasn't a planet. It was a shell. Vast artificial sphere cloaked in collapsed space frequencies, impossible to scan, older than any known civilization. Its outer layer shimmered with a kind of energy that made high systems flicker and organic beings feel watched. The Varnari priest aboard the temple ship collapsed instantly upon exposure. She muttered 2 words before falling unconscious. There. Inside the shell? A species? A machine? A god? No one could say. The obsidian drones deployed to scan the outer hull. What they sent back shook every person watching. The shell was a containment field. Not to keep something out, got to keep something in. Carved into the inner walls were words etched in dozens of alien dialects, some long extinct, but one phrase was translated into common. Not by AI, but by something else. Something that wanted. It read, "You were warned. We taught them fear so you would not need to learn it, but now you have broken the chain. And what was asleep is no longer dreaming." In Earth's war room, Elena's blood went cold. This wasn't a prison, Harper said quietly. It was a lock. And we've been smashing the keys, Elena whispered. The moment the phrase was translated, systems across the galaxy glitched. On Evex Prime. The sky turned red for 6 minutes. On the moon of Halvera, animals fled underground. In total silence, on Earth, one of the deep vaults in Antarctica trembled for the first time in history. And then came the final message. No voice. No broadcast. Just a presence. A pulse. From inside the sphere, a single thought injected directly into every AI, every ship's neural net, every mind augmented with Terrancum implants. We are awake. And just like that, Origin opened. outer shell fractured without explosion. The pieces folded into each other with geometric impossibility, space bent, light reversed, and from the core of the sphere emerged a ship, or what resembled a ship. It was alive, shifting, vast, as large as a moon, yet as quiet as breath, and it didn't attack. It just moved toward the nearest star, toward civilization, toward the noise. In the chaos that followed, half the rebel worlds panicked. Others readied weapons. But Earth did not flinch, because they had seen this kind of power before. Not in scale, but in silence. This was not the birth of a new war. It was the return of something forgotten. And Elena Morane made a choice. She broadcast one final message. To the entire galaxy. This is Earth. We don't know what we've woken, but we'll face it together. If you're listening, if you're afraid, then stand beside us. We don't promise peace. We promise to stand between you and the dark. The message played across 1,000 stars. Some planets wept. Some laughed in disbelief, but many responded. The Free Coalition expanded. Not as rulers, but as guardians. And Earth became the sword and shield of a galaxy that had never known freedom, and now feared what freedom might cost. From the ashes of rebellion, a new purpose emerged, because Earth hadn't won the war. It had only finished the first chapter. And somewhere in the void between stars, the ancient intelligence once locked inside Origin drifted silently. Watching. Remembering. Waiting. And Earth stood ready. Not with speeches. Not with banners, but with resolve. The galaxy had sent Earth a threat. And Earth had replied with fire, silence, and an open eye, because now no one was sleeping.